All right, so I've got May 19th. This is the judge. I've got May 19th is when y'all arranged for you to see the kids. And you saw the kids, and there was no incident on that date. And I explained to her, correct. And then a few days later, 3 days later, she calls and makes a threat. Because she has a boyfriend that has been accused of child molestation that is possibly facing charges. She's going to have him do it. So I'm explaining to her, basically the day before the restraining order was placed, I called her and left her voicemail. Basically, she had earlier told you that I had something over her head about the arrest on April 2008. Okay, so in the voicemail, which I told her I was coming to file my restraining order because I had the court documents against her. So after the voicemail, the judge asked me, but when she called you, did you talk to her? I explained no, because I told her I was going to cut off communications. I didn't want her nowhere near me anymore because she's disruptive. She's just a big child for the most part, highly immature. So then I go on and explain to her about the incident that happened in Destrehan. And I was trying to give her the paperwork to show that I was found not guilty, which is more or less poor decision making on her part. She's lying to the courts, talking about I did something to her, and then we go to court and she loses. No charges were pressed against her. In April 19, 2008, basically, she went before the judge. The victim was present in court. Victim stated that she lied to Shreveport Police Department and was charged with filing a false report. And I tried to get this to the judge, but she refused to even take it or even consider it as part, like I say, poor decision making, pathological liar. So then the judge, basically, after her rude interruptions, she's trying to handle me. That's the rule, sir. You want to have your case? You want to take advantage of the courts, which people should take advantage of the courts, but there are rules like many activities, and I preside here. See, abuse of power. Power is all about abuse. Abuse is all about power. And then I explained to her, yeah, there's an order. There's a respect issue. So that's the whole thing that's being obstructed here. Speaking, defending myself. I wasn't being rude and interrupting her statement. She was interrupting my testimonies. And I explained, well, you yourself are being disruptive. So then she threatens me. Mr. Adams, I have the power to punish direct contempt of court by fines or imprisonment. If you insist on talking over me, I will order you to be imprisoned for 24 hours, and I don't want to do that. I actually want to hear the case. But you're not giving a fair ruling. You've already issued a restraining order unwarranted, violated the laws which you are sworn to uphold. So I go on trying to explain myself. Like I said, basically, I'm trying to lay out my case as far as she's a pathological liar, and you are not hearing it. It was very frustrating. So then the judge, Miss Williams, it's the state of our marriage when we was married. He stated that he loved me, and I'm ruining kids' lives because he wants to be with me. He went to college, and he's very good with the law. Basically that he's a veteran. It's just a lot. It's a lot. Okay, but the judge states, but you haven't told me any threats or anything like that in there. And then she confirms it. Oh, no, no, no. It's just that he's trying to get back together with you? Yeah. So basically, I go on to explain it. She files single head of household, committing fraud to the IRS. Like I said, elaborating that she's a pathological liar. Also sent a letter that the documentation where she sent me to jail the day that my sister died of cancer, when she had just recently sent me out there to California to be with my sister. And then they said she was trying to stop me from going by Vernon's. And all right, there's the paperwork that, in her diary, she says, she vowed never to call the police on me. And then she explained how I am so depressed, said don't see it. He absorbs with his thinking. He does see that I just really need a friend. As she was saying, he just doesn't see I really need a friend. And here's the paperwork that more or less proves that she filed me single and herself single head of household, which you can't even file that married. You have to do married filing jointly. And the address was to her place of business that she had quit. And here's the other paperwork that I had. I was trying to show the judge, trying to get her to see. And like I said, she just would not acknowledge that this woman was a liar. So at this point, I explained to her, yes, I'm very intelligent. I received a full scholarship to college. And basically, I wouldn't do anything stupid that would endanger my freedom. So then she come out, okay, I'm going to make the call that I believe Miss Williams. I don't believe that Mrs. Williams threatened to have Mr. Allen's beat up, basically overlooking the boyfriend as possibly facing charges. This is something, again, you can take to the Court of Appeals. The final rule is Miss Williams' rule for custody. So we get to this situation. I'm trying to explain myself again. Like I said, I've been trying to present evidence that she's a pathological liar or basically makes poor decisions. All right. She's lied on court documents that you signed that said that we were divorced April 2010 when we weren't divorced until March 2011. So we got to the letter, and she has a letter. If you just read the letter for yourself, you'll see clearly what I said. Basically, she had no diligence in trying to properly mediate this circumstance or this situation or the case presented before her on the behalf of resolving this issue for both litigants. So she asked me, so do you have any reason why it's not in the child's best interest to grant Miss Williams sole custody? And I was like, yes. Basically, as far as my son's education, he was advanced in Shreveport and I had him in a school in excellence in education. He complained about the school because the grading system was different here. So I basically was able to get into a 5.0 grading system to where we could, if I made B's, I still got a 4.0. As far as my daughter, she put her with this stranger. I asked her, I was like, have you done a background check? And she's like, no, he's all right. And this and that. So assumption. When we assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And I believe in law and order and believe the rules are for a reason. As parental rights, my parental rights have extremely been violated constantly, over and over, repeatedly and unrecognized as being, first off, Louisiana never ratified women's liberation. She pissed me off. So I go on to explain. So she basically signed a contract, a marriage contract that she reneged on. So that shows as far as her credibility and her integrity of what she undertakes is not a commitment. She can't help my son with his homework. Then I said, I really want to get my kids out of New Orleans and back into Shreveport. My daughter was born in Shreveport. She kidnapped my daughter. She brought her back from New Orleans like on a trip, and my daughter was throwing up. I was asleep thinking she was going to the doctor when in fact she was on the road driving back to New Orleans while my daughter, an H1N1, was going around. She jeopardized my daughter's health. She jeopardized my daughter's health just to have her way. She's selfish. Okay, but at the end, basically, the judge says, what I need to make a permanent decision on custody is an evaluation from a mental health professional. And I'm aware that comes at a cost, because escalating costs is part of the judicial, not to escalate costs, is part of the judicial code of conduct. And that may be difficult for the parties right now. Mr. Adams has recently returned to the area, and it's important that the kids have a chance to get reacquainted with him. And either party can file a rule 6 months from today or beyond to ask the courts to consider permanent custody. So this leads us to this. This was the order of protection, and it's expired December 17, 2015. And basically this is what was given to the school system. But like I said, they can't understand that the court grants temporary custody of the following children. So it wasn't a permanent decision, right? An order effective through 11:59 p.m. on December 17, year 15, 2015. So over here, I filed a rule to modify custody, which basically the temporary custody had expired. And I've been trying to get the schools to understand this and to see that they say basically I received this in court, but as you could see, they filed me absent when I was in fact present. So this is like insubordination. And at the end, it is hereby ordered, adjudged, and decreed that Cedric Leland Adams' rule to modify custody is denied. The reason for that is because there was no standing permanent custody to be modified. And the school can't comprehend this simple fact. So this is Code of Judicial Conduct. A judge shall respect and comply with the law and shall act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Impartiality, absence of bias, prejudice in favor of. Basically, this judge showed prejudice in favor toward the mother, who clearly had no threats or violence done to her. A judge shall not allow family, social, political, and other relationships to influence judicial conduct. A judge shall be faithful in the law and maintain professional competence in it. A judge shall be unswayed by partisan interest, public clamor, and fear of criticism. A judge shall maintain order and decorum in judicial proceedings. A judge shall be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants. A judge shall perform duties without bias or prejudice, including self-representing litigants to be fairly heard. However, that so doing, a judge shall not give self-represented litigation an unfair advantage or create an appearance of partiality to the reasonable person. Basically, the judge testified something about whenever I explained that I filed a CPS case. She stated something to the conclusion, which was never concluded. I never got any finishing paperwork from it. So here's my paperwork for a motion to appeal the decision by Judge Jupiter, Claire Jupiter. And basically I had to handwrite certain things because I was missing it. But as you can see here, I paid for it. I paid $645.50 for an appeal that never got a court date, that never went to trial for some reason. They took money out of my children's mouths, basically. So here are the many letters I wrote to the Judiciary Commission of Louisiana, Special Counsel, concerning the behavior I had to be subjected to by Judge Claire Jupiter and how she violated her judicial code of conduct. But basically they were saying the allegations raised in your complaint dealt with matters that were subject to review within the court system and therefore fell outside the Commission's jurisdiction. In many instances where a right of review exists in court, including this one, the Commission does not have have the power or authority to proceed, right? So I filed an appeal, but it never went to court. All right, here it's like this will acknowledge receipt of your complaint against Judge Claire Jupiter. This matter has been assigned administrative file number 14-246 for future reference. The office is responsible for investigating allegations of unethical judicial conduct in violation of Article 5, 25C of the Louisiana Constitution or the Code of Judicial Conduct. And I regret we cannot be of service at this time, basically, is what they said. All right. This will acknowledge receipt of your complaint on July 21st, 2014, regarding Judge Claire Jupiter. Please be advised that your correspondence will be considered an appeal of the screening decision in the above referenced manner. Your case will be submitted to the Commission for its determination. You will be advised accordingly. All right. This will acknowledge your complaint against Judge Claire Jupiter, which has been assigned file number 16-407 for future reference. Your complaint does not allege judicial misconduct within the scope of our jurisdiction. Thus, we cannot open an inquiry. So this is another letter, file number 16-406. Your previous complaint was assigned file number 16-197. Was screened out on May 17, 2016. The screening decision was affirmed by the full commission on September 23, 2016. Once a screening decision has been affirmed by the full commission, the matter is final and can no longer be reviewed. Your current complaint, which was file number 16-406, makes the same allegations regarding the same judge and is being screened out as repetitive and allegations in the early complaint. I'm sorry, but there is no further review possible. Okay, this was a complaint against Judge Nikisha Irvin Knox in reference of filing me absent when I was in fact present. So basically, she didn't maintain professional competency.